Hello everybody, intro-MGTOW speaking here. Hope everyone's having a good evening, and let's get right into the show. So, first and foremost, I'd like to apologize to all those for my long hiatus. I know I did promise you guys a video, I want to say maybe a month or two back, but my final exams as well as other projects were due during that time, so I couldn't really put down some time and actually sit down and make this video. I also like to ask in time for an excuse. Do excuse the extra noise you might hear in the background, being little clicking noises or tapping noises. I am currently putting together some Warhammer 40k Space Marine models. I know some of you guys might be interested in that because I have met some of you guys, at least on social media, that are interested in those various hobbies. And hopefully in time I could actually have some footage of me painting the models and whatnot. For those of you guys that do like to watch something while you listen to a video, I would like to apologize on that part. This is primarily going to be audio for this. I just wanted to get this video out there. I actually put my foot in the door that is within the MGTOW community. Now, there's going to be three individuals that I'd like to thank before I start this video, and that being Sandman, Raging Golden Eagle, and Turd Flinging Monkey. All of those content creators of the MGTOW community have their various different perspectives upon MGTOW, and they all have their very individual stories that cause them to take this path, and also for them to help other men that are also on this road or even about to take their turn on this road. I'd like to thank them all for putting out that content. I do like to listen to them while I am making my commute from and to school. So there it is. Now, quite similarly, I'm not going to try to mirror them, for MGTOW, as it stands for, is men going their own way. Every man should have their own personal philosophy, per se. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be unique in every single way. I mean, everyone's going to be, double dipping into other people's, content here and there. However, I like to add my own unique spin to it. Now, without further ado, this is going to be one of my, short story type videos on what made me choose this MGTOW path. Now, I like to tell all of you guys right off the bat, this is primarily going to be some type of an archive for myself. Sure, I'm going to put these videos on YouTube, but I'm also going to save them and listen to them whenever I need to know where I have been and where I come from. So that's just for, my own personal message to myself as well as to others. And before we get on to the actual video, I know it's a lot of intro and housekeeping stuff, but I like to also just invite you all, to also, engage, per se. Not just with myself, but with also other members of the MGTOW community. Believe me, maybe a problem you're going through is something that somebody just went over, or maybe someone else is going through the same problem. I know for myself, I don't want to be alone when it comes down to certain issues, and I do, thank certain people in this community for being there for me and offering advice and just listening to me vent. But like I said, that's just an option for you to take. I'm not necessarily forcing you to do it. So without further ado, here goes the first short story. So I myself am a college student. I am currently thinking about transferring right now, as that is the time too. Right now I am currently studying law, but I do have an interest in economics and politics, as well as various other miscellaneous things that comes down to the paranormal, being, monsters in the woods or in the deep blue sea, as well as if there's ever life out there and what they might think of us and whatnot. Just something that I always, tend to think about instead of just, getting crazy when it comes down to hitting the books for long hours on end on the weekdays. My hobbies do include, as I mentioned before, is Warhammer, as well as gaming, being on Xbox, being Fallout 4, Rainbow Six, Warhammer, and various other different video games. I do enjoy just standing around, listening to my iPod or, listening to documentaries and whatnot around the house. I don't like to go out that much. The only times I do go out is basically to sometimes go out shopping on my own or to the gym. But I'm not that person to go out to clubs and bars and whatnot. I just see them as a waste of time as well as even money, especially when someone is myself that has certain hobbies. Those need the money rather than me, giving somebody free drinks just to have a conversation with them. All in all, that's pretty much a, very basic introduction upon the person that is talking to this microphone behind the screen right now. That's not to say that over time I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about myself, but that's just a basic gist of it. So, here goes a short story. I owe my MGTOW thoughts as well as even some of my philosophy to somebody that it may cause a little shock. I owe that to my mother. Now, mother was somebody that has her own weird, unique way of showing affection and love, as well as even warning of the various dangers that a young man might encounter when they are growing up. Mother was that individual that always told me to keep an eye on others around you, especially the girls, for she always said I was one of them and I know what we like and what we don't like. Very interesting when it came down to many of the different various advice lines my mother gave to me. Now I know this may be a red flag for many, and I don't blame you, but mother was a single mother. I'm not going to sugarcoat it here, but my father, at a very, very young age of myself, decided to off himself. So memories of him are very slim and near non-existent. However, she didn't necessarily tell me, but I knew. I knew what he did. Did I care? At the time when I found out, a little bit. But over time, I just simply taught myself that person wasn't there in my life, so why should I give a damn? Other than that, my mother was always working, going to school and working, going to school and working. So when it came down to raising me as a child, it came down to the hands of my older relatives, being my great uncle, great aunts, great grandparents, and various older generation. I was a very different kid when it came down to growing up. Sure, on the outside, I had all the, unique toys and whatnot, being the Bionicles or, playing with the Buzz Lightyear, action figure or G.I. Joes or little army men. But I didn't necessarily like to play well with others per se. Now that's changed over time, but just growing up, I just didn't like to. As most kids, they don't like to share. I didn't either. Now, fast forwarding it all the way to middle school, and mother's advice came again to me. Always keep an eye on others, especially the girls. But then she added something else. Don't ever be alone with them. If you're ever alone with them, go find somewhere else and you yourself be alone. Quite interesting lines of advice from mother, but it helped me. Because over time, especially in middle school and going on to junior high, girls, for some twisted, strange, or just downright evil reasons, tend to make up stories about other girls or even boys. But for more or less speaking, the boys always were the ones that got in the most trouble rather than the other girls. I did go to a Christian middle school as well as junior high. So, of course, religious punishment, it was in the mind of those, and it was very interesting perspective, but I do digress upon that part as we push along to 8th grade all the way to the end of my high school years. Now, 8th grade was unique for myself as well as maybe a few other individuals because that is when I started to go to a all-gender school. It was all male. from 8th grade all the way to my senior year in high school. Various different adventures and whatnot from friends that I thought were going to be friends for their lifetime, but as time goes on, that's never a guarantee. Over time, of course, I learned a lot, whether it came from my professors and, TAs, as well as even my own experiences that I learned by myself or with others that we swore never to speak of, but now I'm putting them out there as anonymous as I possibly can. So, high school was a time where those advice came from mother the most. That sounded very awkward saying it, but that's just how it came out. It came a lot because that is the time where she met my father. Of course, they were high school sweethearts, always talking about getting married and going to college together and whatnot. But she always told me, always keep an eye on your fellow man, but never take your eyes off of the women. Very interesting advice from mother. So, what did I learn? It was simple. When you were in 8th grade, or a freshman, or a sophomore, you didn't get that much attention from the opposite gender. We did have 5 sister schools, those that would come over to advertise a school dance, try to be your best friend just for you to buy their $10 ticket just to go to a dance, or even eventually later on, as you were a junior or a senior, to buy their $50 to $60 ticket to take them to their formal dance. It is what it is. I don't blame them 100%, but it is quite interesting on how their ideas and mentality start off from a young age like that. Now, when I was an 8th grader, of course, like I said, no attention was given to us. And honestly, it was pretty interesting. Many of us simply just didn't care. We were so busy playing our Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards, as well as playing on our Nintendo DS's or Game Boy Advances to actually give a damn. Playing Pokemon, or later on, of course, Super Smash Bros. And whatnot. Mario Kart was also a very interesting game to play. But like I said, we didn't care that much. We had a lot to preoccupy us. However, hitting the end of freshman all the way to starting of sophomore year, it was quite interesting. That is when I realized that, people can be monsters. And of course, being male, we like to be very dominant upon one another. So a lot of interesting or twisted things happened between us. Whether it was beating each other up or asserting dominance over others, it was a common thing. Now, we were always called in as a class or even as an entire group from a dean or a principal or another president of the school to tone it down, per se, on those types of activities. Did it stop it? Sure, for a time, but then it came back with a vengeance. Now, upon junior year and senior year, attention was to something else. For many, it was towards the girls. For some, it was towards their future, being either going into a university or going to a trade, or for some, the military. And for myself, at least for myself, and maybe just a few, we just didn't know. Not to say that we didn't care, but it's just the fact that we didn't know where we're going to end up at. But if something in front of us didn't show up, then we often gave that attention, being like a damn moth looking into a light and giving it all of its attention. That's just how it was. Now, just rewind back to 8th grade to sophomore years, thinking, I wasn't the only one that had these thoughts when it came down to these girls coming over to our high school. It wasn't a lot of them, of course, and it was often maybe just 2 or 3 of them just to come over and advertise their wannabe event or whatever was going on. But it was quite interesting, as I had a friend that transferred into an inner city all-boys school. Now, those sister schools were, in fact, sister schools to that school as well. However, over there, they were more quote unquote alpha than us betas. Now, I say that because it was a rich inner city school, very good at sports, very good with PR. Their dances were massive, as they had, over, I want to say, on average, at least maybe 2,000 or 3,000, people to come in. And the unique thing about them, which is also very interesting to also think about, is the fact that they close their doors upon any other guys that try to come in from other outside sources. So normally, because their school had like at least 2,000 students, but at least a good, 500 to 600 guys would show up, and then literally 1,000 or 2,000 girls would show up just to go and see what all the hype was about. And of course, you had free drinks, a lot of snacks, even some food trucks. It was just awesome. But going down to us, of course, we didn't have all that. So of course, when it came down to a dance, it was just simple bottled water or some candy. Never, being sodas, or even if you wanted to be extremely daring, those kids that sneak in weed or alcohol. Very interesting. But I digress. The original thought was here. They had something that called down upon them, that was status, attention. Now, most people love that. But girls, they find that irresistible. You can see that nowadays on how the selfie culture is. You go on Snapchat or Instagram or anything of that nature, and you see how many pictures are uploaded upon, how many are uploaded a day. Whether it be dozens, hundreds, or even some people going all the way to trying to hit 1,000 pictures a day. Now, I know it's rare, but at least for me thinking now, it's not going to be so rare maybe going into the next 5 to 6 years or so. But that's just me. And I know one of those schools, not the inner city school, but another one that was nearby it as well, also very good at sports, especially football and basketball, as well as baseball. But they were able to conjugate at least a few hundred people, or even when it was a big game, 1,000 to 2,000 people to watch their games. Now, the thing is, every time they won, of course, the team would celebrate on the field, but their girlfriends would have special seating. When they won, they were actually able to go down with their boyfriends and take pictures and whatnot, and quote unquote share the glory, even though sure, they were there to support them, but when it comes down to football, and trust me, I know football, I played football, support can only go such a long way when it tends to go to at least the majority of the activities coming down to you. Now, go back to us. We didn't have that. There was very few seniors that actually had the resources and whatnot. They actually had a good car. They were somebody. But everyone else was just kind of eh. I mean, only one of my friends I want to know that was in the junior year actually had a car, but it was a beat up tan Honda, 1990 something Honda. He wasn't getting any attention from that. It was just us, going to a damn diner after, after school or whatnot. He wasn't picking up chicks. But, like I said, I don't blame him 100%. It's just how it is. I'll go into more detail about high school and whatnot, because honestly, it does shape the kind of person that you later become. Those 4 years do shape you. And I do have quite a few stories about it, but that's just a brief little overview about my high school. Now, going on to college, I'm not gonna lie, I was a fucking beta. I strived for attention, more or less, from the female variety, where I already still had my friends that were males. Didn't really care that much about getting new friends, but I really wanted a girlfriend. I don't know what it was, really. I mean, I already passed that stage, per se, of the whole hormonal need of having sex and whatnot. Not to say that it popped in here or there, but it just wasn't as strong as it was in high school. But hey, that's where two hands are for and porn was for. At least for us, betas. Now, going into college, it was a shitstorm. It was a shit storm. It was a shitstorm. It was a show. At least for myself. Spaghetti was flying out of my pockets every single damn day. To the point where I just simply gave up. And that's when I pretty much went and actually took my first steps upon the path that was MGTOW. But that didn't happen per se. I had a lot of uneasy experiences and things I rather have not gone through, but as often it's said, it's the experience that makes the person make certain choices later on in their lives. So, in a weird way, I am thankful for some of these things that happened, but I'd rather have not gotten hurt. But it is what it is. Now, my first year, second semester, was probably the first time a female actually gave me attention. But it wasn't the right type of attention, at least, that I thought it was supposed to be. As it goes, she was from China, so she's Chinese. And me being into the anime culture and whatnot, I did have a thing for Asian girls, whether they were Japanese or Chinese or Korean, whatever. I just had a thing for them. And the first time she ever looked at me, I'm not gonna lie, I know it sounds pretty beta of me to say, but my heart melted. She looked at me, gave me a smile, and then looked away. I don't know if that was her being nice or polite, or basically in her mind saying target acquired, beta found, about to extract resources. Now, my resources more or less were my time. She knew I drove a pretty decent car. She knew I had pretty decent money and whatnot. But being I want to say her third language was English, it wasn't very good. So she needed help with that. And my dumbass, I did a lot of her work for her. Just for those few hours of attention. Just for a date or two. And that's what I did for an entire semester. And it hurts. I'm not gonna lie. It does hurt when somebody actually uses you like that. Now, we didn't ever do anything. We barely held hands or anything like that. But it wasn't until the end where I actually realized that she was quite disgusted when it came down to physical contact with me. Every time I try to reach for her hand or something, she kind of cringed. And before, she used to like, hugging me. I was, quite taller than her. She was, I believe, only like 5'5" when I was like 6'2". So she used to love, well, at least I thought she did, hugging me. She used to nuzzle her face on my chest, and I had that feeling again. Now, as I mentioned before, I did all this because I thought I was in love, when in fact she knew what she was doing. I did a lot of her essays for her. I helped her with assignments. I used to read a lot of the assignments while she was doing something else. And like I said, I didn't catch on until it was a little too late. She was always on her phone towards the middle, and then of course towards the end she was just straight up talking into it, talking to someone, of course. Now I couldn't necessarily understand them because she was speaking her second language, which was, if I do remember correctly, was French. And that's just how it starts to disintegrate the friendship. I thought it was a relationship, but it was, at least towards where I'm looking at it, it was more of a friendship per se, not even a relationship. And then as I look at it more, I was just being used. Now, there's always this thing with the whole Western guy all the time, saying, oh, fuck Western women, and all that. I'm just gonna go to, like, Asia, or, maybe even some people Middle East, or even in Eastern Europe, and try to find somebody. But even then, you don't know how certain people are until you spend a lot of time with them, being male or female. And with her, I only spent 3.5 months with her, and it wasn't until, like I said, it wasn't until month 2 when I started, month 2.5-ish, when I started to realize that, wow, you were just using me. So I confronted her about it, and I did say, quite annoyingly, with my voice cracking a little bit, were you just using me? The thing that messes me up the most is that she gave me the exact same smile and look on the first day I met her. And she just said, yes, and walked away. I sat all the way in the back of that class until it was over. And luckily, it was during, when that semester ended, of course, we had a, break. And luckily I didn't see her ever again. One of my friends did mention to me that she was with this guy speaking French, and they were really intimate with each other. Guess the bastard didn't know English, or else he would have done it for her. But it is what it is. Like I said, do I wish that it didn't happen to me? Of course. But it's these experiences that I had that allow me to actually, one, understand how people act, how people treat you, especially how, you being in college, especially being, not even gonna lie and sugarcoat this, but you being a vulnerable male coming into that environment, girls know that. They know that. Just how some guys know that. Guys that have been there a lot longer, they know who the freshman girls are. They know what they know what they need to say and what to say in order to get into their pants. And those girls, same thing goes for them. They've been there long enough, or they've been doing it long enough, or they know what to say to get what they want. So, as I end this video here, do enjoy that if you guys critique it, per se, and tell me what you thought about it. What can I improve upon? Was it too long? Was it too short? Was it just all over the place? Anything at all? I do enjoy the feedback. Looking into the future and forward into this is something I'm gonna enjoy doing. So, as I mentioned before, I'd like to thank Sandman turned Fleeing Monkey, as well as Raging Golden Eagle, to, get my bravery up to also add my little 2 cents into the whole conversation. And I hope that this me telling you guys this experience will also help you guys to make certain decisions and whatnot. Other than that, though, I hope all you guys have a good evening or a good night, or if you guys are waking up, have a good morning. And go on with the rest of your day with a good positive attitude per se for your own good. Be very productive for your own good. Don't always rely on other people's, gratification for you to be happy. At the end of the day, it's your decision, your choices that are going to be the ones that will have you, at the end of the day, have a smile on your face. I know that sounds very cheesy and all that, but that's just the first things that come into mind. But other than that, I'll see you guys all very, very soon, and thanks for listening.